I pretended to be a different person for 30 days. By the end, I wasn't pretending. Day 19. Someone asked me what I thought about something. A small question, a casual one, and I answered without hesitating. The answer came from him, not from me. I sat with that for a long time after. The answer had been his rhythm, his logic, his way of arriving at a conclusion. And it had felt completely natural, more natural in that moment than anything I would have said as myself. That was the first time I understood that something had gone wrong. Or right. I still don't know which. The setup. His name was Daniel. I invented him 3 weeks before the experiment started. Not randomly, but carefully. I chose traits that were the opposite of mine in ways that interested me. Where I second guess, he was certain. Where I go quiet in rooms, he filled them. Where I edit myself before speaking, he said the first true thing that came to mind and let the consequences arrange themselves. He was not a better person. He was a different architecture. The rules, for 30 days, I would respond to every situation as Daniel would. Not perform Daniel. Inhabit him. The difference matters. Performance is something you watch yourself do. Inhabitation is something that disappears into you. I told no one what I was doing. I used my own name. I went to the same places, saw the same people. The only thing that changed was the person making the decisions. The first week, learning the architecture. The first thing I discovered was how much of my ordinary behavior was habit rather than choice. The way I entered rooms, the speed at which I responded to questions, the specific hesitation before disagreeing with someone, the automatic apology that preceded any opinion I was not certain would be received well. Daniel did none of these things, not because he was bold in any theatrical sense, but because the architecture of his personality had never built the rooms where my habits lived. He had no hesitation before disagreement because disagreement had never been, for him, a problem requiring management. He entered rooms as if the room had been expecting him because it had never occurred to him that it hadn't. Inhabiting this was not comfortable. It required constant attention, not to perform Daniel, but to catch myself performing myself and redirect. By day 5, the redirecting had become faster. By day 7, it was sometimes automatic. This should have been a warning. It wasn't. The second week, the feedback. The second thing I discovered was that other people responded to Daniel differently than they responded to me. Not better. Differently. With a quality of attention that I had not previously received. When Daniel spoke in a group, people listened with a completeness that I had always attributed to what was being said, and now understood had more to do with how it was being said, and by whom, and with what certainty. A conversation that would have drifted past me as myself arrived at Daniel and stayed, was engaged with, was pushed back against, which is its own kind of attention, I began to understand, in a way that is difficult to describe without sounding either bitter or naive, that a significant portion of what I had experienced as my personality's reception in the world was not about me at all. It was about the particular frequency at which I had learned to broadcast myself, and that frequency could be changed. Day 11. Someone I had known for years told me, unprompted, that I seemed different lately. Good different, they said. More present. I thanked them as Daniel. It fit perfectly. The third week. Where it got complicated, by day 15, the boundary had started to develop what I can only describe as porosity. Moments where Daniel's response and my response would have been identical, and I couldn't tell afterward which one had actually spoken. Moments where Daniel's logic had become my first instinct rather than a conscious choice. Small things at first, then larger. Day 17. I disagreed with someone directly. No preamble, no softening, no trailing qualification. The disagreement came out clean and complete. Afterward, I waited to feel the familiar discomfort of having been too direct. It didn't come. Day 19. The question. The answer that came from him and felt like mine. I went home and sat at my desk for a long time. I tried to locate where Daniel ended, and I began. I found the line was not where I had left it. This is the thing about identity that the experiment made viscerally clear. It is not fixed. It is a collection of habits so practiced they feel like facts. Change the habits long enough and with enough consistency, and what felt like fact begins to feel like one option among several. The final week, what remained? By day 25, I had stopped maintaining the distinction deliberately, not because I had forgotten the experiment, but because the instruction to inhabit Daniel had been so thoroughly executed that the execution had become invisible. There was no longer a me watching a Daniel. There was just behavior, responses, a way of moving through the world that had started as an act and become, through repetition, something that felt genuine. Day 30. The experiment ended. I stopped. Except I didn't entirely stop. The certainty, Daniel's certainty, had deposited something. A residue of the habit of knowing what I thought without negotiating with myself first. The room entering. The clean disagreement. These did not dissolve when the 30 days ended. They had been practiced enough to leave marks. What also remained was a question I had not expected to be asking at the end of this experiment. If the traits I had performed for 30 days could become, through practice, indistinguishable from the traits I had spent a lifetime calling mine, then what exactly were my original traits? Not character, not essence, just earlier habits, older performances, practiced so long they had stopped feeling like performance. I don't have a clean answer to that. What I have instead is this. On day 19, someone asked me a question, and Daniel answered it, and it felt like the most natural thing I had said in 3 weeks. I'm still not sure what that means, but I notice now, when I'm editing myself before I speak, and sometimes, not always, not even often, I don't.